Joining me now, though, Sky News reporter Tom Connell. We're going to pull apart some of the budget details, certainly what we know now, ahead of what we'll know absolutely come 7:30 in the Treasurer's speech. All right, Tom, take us through what's on the table already.
Yeah, well, we walked through a few of Labor's election promises. It's a very rare budget that's happening only a few months after the election, so we knew a lot of this already. Just going through some of the spending that has been detailed. Childcare, an increase on childcare. Obviously, this is going to change the thresholds at which various people are eligible. So $5.4 billion being spent on that. It doesn't begin until the middle of next year. Also, fibre access to the NBN. So we're seeing another $2.4 billion there. $8.8 billion is the NDIS blowout, which we'll go into a little bit later on. And there is going to be a review on the NDIS. Aged care reforms, so again, something Labor said it would be paying for. The last two are interesting. $15 billion in terms of infrastructure spending, Labor's talking about. And then the last one is actually cut, so $21 billion there. Various redirections, repurposing, whatever the word you want to be or use, Peter. But we'll find out exactly what projects are not going ahead, and that will be an interesting part of the debate, I'm sure, tonight and tomorrow.
Just on that $21 billion, that is not $21 billion of cuts now being kept as savings. They could end up spending 20 of that, let's say, Tom, in other commitments, Labor-branded commitments, and only have a true saving of $1 billion. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, well, essentially, they haven't revealed exactly what out of that 21 is going to be repurposed, if you like, and what out of it is actually just going to be a genuine saving. So, look, I think it's fair to say when you look at the $15 billion of new infrastructure, clearly it's not a $21 billion overall saving, but it's a little bit of that detail to come. So they have spoken about the overall amounts. We don't know what projects, though, within some of these funds are. We just know the Building Better Regions Fund is gone totally, but one replaces it. So how much money goes into that? So some of that detail will obviously come later on tonight, but even in terms of those grants projects, you know, Labor saying it's going to be its new approach versus the coalition's.
All right, I'll make a punt for you tonight that there won't be a saving, won't be a dollar saved out of that $21 billion. It'll all be spent somewhere else. And for those following at home, if you go to budget paper 2, which will come as soon as the Treasurer gets to his feet, those budget papers will be on the Treasury website. That's where you will go to see what programs are discontinued that won't happen and what will be the new infrastructure programs coming your way. Take us through the macro, the updated forecasts. What are the top line numbers, Tom?
Yeah, it's not great reading because the ones in brackets here, how much they're up and down, this is just from July alone, Peter. So, yes, GDP is up slightly, unemployment stays the same. This is for 2022-23, but inflation, this is for this current financial year, already that's gone up. The forecast there at 5.75. It peaks near 8% at the end of the year. The deficit for this financial year, well, that's the good news on $41.4 billion in terms of the reduction. When we go into 2023-2024, though, this is where it starts to get worse. So GDP, you can see 1.5% is now the prediction. Now, that's down just from that July prediction, as I said, another 0.5%. Unemployment up to 4.5%. This is the latest forecast. Inflation, look how much that's up, 0.7%, 3.5%. So we'll find out more around the deficits later on tonight over those forward estimates. And also, of course, the crucial one, wages, and how that compares to inflation, because crucially, the thing Labor said it would be able to do, get wages going, well, that's not going to come for at least a couple of years.
All right, I'll skip over commodity prices. I'm going to come back to that a bit later. But look, one of the ones I'm going to look hard at tonight is the NDIS. We know it now costs us more than Medicare, which I think is gobsmacking, given Medicare funds services for all 25 million of us. And the NDIS right now is around 700,000 only Australians. So talk us through some of these numbers.
Let's start and just first of all, how it compares, as you mentioned there, to some of the other big ticket items for the federal government. So state hospitals, this is how much the Commonwealth contributes towards state hospitals, just over $27 billion. Aged care, $27 billion as well. Medicare, $30 billion. NDIS, $35.8 billion. The other issue, while that looks high enough already, is where that goes. So NDIS, the cost to keep growing in the current financial year, the one just passed, so we know how much this costs, $29.2 billion. By 29-30, look at that leap up, $59.3 billion. This is the latest estimate that was quietly ordered by disability ministers across Australia. So you can see how much it's going up. Why? A whole host of reasons. More participants than originally estimated by the Productivity Commission, a higher level of support overall for those participants, staying longer in the system as well, and also states essentially withdrawing their support or pushing people into the federal scheme. So this is why there is a review of it, and essentially even plenty of advocates out there are saying they want to make sure the NDIS is there and sustainable for those that need it most. So I know there's a lot of debate, and for some people it's sacrosanct to talk about something not being sustainable, but for those concerned about whether or not this cost can be afforded, it's about making sure the people that need the NDIS the most won't see it, hacked into. So it's a huge and growing budget item, and even Labor is conceding that now, essentially, with a review of it, and Bill Shorten out there talking about the cost of this scheme.
All right, Tom, I'll come back to you a bit later on in the show when we'll get back into that budget detail. I'll make the point again, when it was set up by Julia Gillard and Bill Shorten, the NDIS upside went to the states and all the downside went to the Commonwealth. Thanks, Tom.